What is going on, everybody? We are live a little bit late, not so much. Roy, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, it's been a busy week, but glad to be here. We're looking for a day that'll be right for this on a weekly basis. So I know we've moved things around a little bit. A lot of that's my fault. So thank you, Tevis, and thank you for everybody watching. But yeah, we're entering earnings season, so it's going to be an interesting time in the market as always. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm just tweeting this out. Doing well, man. I've been not as glued to the market as I'd like to be, just work. But earnings is coming up in a couple weeks. For Sofi, I think earnings is going to be even sooner than that for Tesla. And yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, earnings are coming up for Tesla. We're going to talk about Tesla tonight, July 23rd. I believe that's aftermarket. If I'm incorrect, somebody correct
Yeah,
me.
it's always aftermarket for Tesla.
Yeah, I hate when a company has a tendency of like always doing it in the pre or after, and then they just throw a curveball in there, and I'm not paying attention, and it comes out. I'm like, oh man, come on. But yeah, that's coming up this next week. It's there's some of the Magnificent Seven as well that are reporting. Netflix reported today, which I don't really care about Netflix, so we won't talk about that one too much. But yeah, earnings season can add a lot of volatility to the market, and I'm in your boat, Tevis. Work has been very busy, and then last week I basically lost the entire week. 60 hours of not having power, and then scrambling around trying to figure things out since power and internet and all that stuff, and even food was limited. It was just not much fun. So I feel a little bit behind with some of the things that are in the market. So, but am looking forward to those earnings. The one good thing about it though is when the market is just tanking off or rising, you're invested fully, and you look at your portfolio and you're like, oh, cool, I made my entire paycheck today, or oh, bummer, I lost a month's worth of pay today. But can just kind of ride it and not be too emotional.
Yeah, dude, I'm even past that level where I just don't even check anymore. Like there was an entire period of time where I was checking what the up or down was on any given day for the entire portfolio value. And now I just don't do that anymore. It's just something so, like I've said it before in the past, that if it wasn't for the YouTube channel, then I wouldn't like have nearly as much involvement in the market as I do. Interestingly, like I bought my first batch of QQQ a couple weeks ago, and then the QQQ started falling. So I was like, okay, well, I just Kramered the QQQ. It was down 2.6%. And then I also had something else to say. Oh yeah, we had massive rain up here in Toronto this week, and it was like 2 months worth of rain in 2 days, and half the city flooded, and we lost power for like the entirety of the day, which is insane because I was thinking of you not having power for like a week, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, how did Roy do it? It was like a zombie apocalypse. I was joking with my team. I was like, they're gonna start, looting stores and just having civil unrest at this point because all of the offices cleared out. All of the streets were like traffic jammed. There was people like on phone. It was like a crisis that you see in like the movies. I was like, guys, it's just electricity. Like, calm down. All the stores were closed. They had like little paper signs at the door like closed because we have no electricity. Everybody was like cash only. Like, it's just the zombie apocalypse, I'm convinced, is like one mini crisis away.
Yeah. I mean, like it's you get knocked out of normalcy, and losing power is one of those big things, especially if you do not have a good internet connection. And for us, anyway, a lot of the cell towers were impacted. Xfinity, like I think, is still down for some people here, although we have fiber, so we were fine. But ended up that I saw the same thing, that when the power went out, you would think that there's fewer people on the road, but actually it's just more because it's ridiculously hot here, and people needed a place to go and cool off. And the craziest thing, though, so this is I think this is maybe the second or third longest I've been without power. Once when I was a kid in Alaska, we lost it for like a week. But we had a fireplace, and it's in the middle of winter, so it was lousy. But this maybe second or third longest, and we felt okay until like nighttime, because it's like trying to lay down and get some sleep when it's very humid in your house and like 92 degrees is miserable. It just, like, I know that people, when they first were settling this area, they were used to that, and people in some parts of the world are used to that, but it's like big fat white guy is not used to that. So we were at the point of almost desperation, and we had some folks that were more than willing for us to stay with them on a temporary basis. But I'm glad we didn't have to take up on that. But yeah, it was the craziest thing. And actually the funniest thing though, so, I own a Tesla, and there's a lot of people that are in my life that, are skeptical of Tesla, and mostly it's just things that they've heard elsewhere. They've never used the product, they've never studied it, and that's fine. They're like, well, so how'd you get around in your Tesla during the blackout and not having power? And I was like, well, it's got a range of like 260 miles. So, and I said, we sat in our garage when we needed to cool off, and this time we didn't have any internet access, so no movie for us. But yeah, it was like, it was not the worst thing. And actually, when we needed to fill it up, because my place of work's like 26 miles away, and I had to go in twice, even though they didn't have power. I didn't have power, just for some stuff that was going on. And so I was like, okay, the range is actually down. We need to charge it. And here, anyway, the gas station lines were like 5 hours long, and there was no guarantee that they would have gas when you got there. We went to the supercharger, and yes, there was a wait, but it was like 30 minutes. And so people are like, how are you going to energize it? It's like, well, the supercharger network is pretty resilient. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was last podcast that I was saying that I need if shit ever hit the fan, you'd be best served if you have like a solar roof, an electric car, a Starlink, and like you're good to go, man. You're completely off the grid, quote unquote, like you'll still have electricity, you'll still be able to move around, and you'll still have internet connectivity. I mean, I would imagine, but
not this time, but yes. Actually, we would have with our fiber, but yeah, that's what my wife wants to do. Is like, she's like, hey, well, next stage is she's thinking generator, and I'm thinking, why would we use a gas generator if we could get solar and like a power wall or something like that, or an anchor? Like, it doesn't have to be Tesla. And throw this up here. Let's pivot a little bit and talk Tesla. So this came out, this piece right here. Let me blow it up a little bit more. Tesla Megapack announced this, that they committed an additional 15.3 gigawatt hours of Megapacks to intersect power. And so this agreement adds to an existing contract that was much smaller. And of course, there's a mention of Texas side, CA for us in Texas. And really, Texas and California is where a lot of this energy storage is going into. And this is really interesting because it comes after they announced the deliveries a few weeks ago, so July 2nd, that they had a record-setting deliveries when it came to energy production. And so they were at almost 10 gigawatt hours. And so the amount that they're actually deploying here, 15.3 gigawatt hours of Megapacks, that's not in 12 months, although some of this certainly is hitting within 12 months. But it's a huge acceleration. And this is fueled by a couple of factors. Interest rates, are hurting on the consumer side, but for the grid itself, companies, especially in California, but also Texas, there was a mention of several projects there. It's scaling rapidly, and this is not something that's expected to slow down. Let me show one more screen here, and we'll talk a little bit about this. And I know Matt was with us last time we discussed this topic, and he's like, well, that's a small amount. Yes, it's small for now, but this is a report that came out earlier in June 18th, last month. And so it's looking at a year-over-year increase of energy storage for this marketplace at 84%. For quarter one. And of course, quarter two hasn't come out yet, but it's continued acceleration. You can really see that huge bump there in quarter four. And they're expecting that to continue to increase massively. So it's one of those several areas that helps Tesla, I think, break free from the narrative of this is just a car company to it's at the very least an energy company. I think it's a tech conglomerate. And I'm very curious in earnings this next week if that huge increase that we saw of almost up to 10 gigawatt hours in quarter 1 is sustainable. With an announcement like this, I don't see why not, especially in the face of falling interest rates.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the energy storage component was the biggest surprise. And I definitely think it's going to be a contributing factor into them crushing their numbers in a couple of weeks, which I think they'll do. And people will say, like, oh, wow, it's not a car company, it's an energy company and this and that. But the reality is, like, I think energy is just a side quest for them because when robotaxis, I don't know if they're actually pushed to October or if it's still in August, like it was planned.
Yeah.
When those come out, you know, and then the Optimus project, when that starts to enter some volume production, or at least they have a cohort working in the factories, I think that narrative is again going to change away from energy and towards something a little bit more tech inclined. So they have like a lot of different irons in the fire that they can, leverage to be this hybrid company. The narrative is going to change. I'm fine with it in the short to medium term changing to Tesla being an energy company, but I don't think that's where they're going to hitch their whatever that expression is, hitch their wagon to. Like, I really think it is robotics and AI because that right now is the sexy new thing. It has the highest multiple. It's what the market is looking for. And I think that's where their attention is also going.
And this is another, deliveries are already out. So, and these are just registrations in California itself. California is a massive market in EVs, partly because they have an extra $2,500 incentive on the state, but there's states that do have more, but they also have the double-sided mandate. So on the other side, I believe it's by 2030, they're basically trying to eliminate ICE vehicle sales. It's not quite set in stone that way, but it's close. And so you would want to usually see, an acceleration in the business. And of course, there's some quarters that are better than others. It's lumpy, but you actually see quarter over quarter. This is the third quarter in a row that Tesla has fewer number of registrations in California. So delivery numbers, we have a good idea of that. I don't think that's a big deal. But for you, is this a concern as a Tesla holder, or what do you think when you see something like
I
this?
really don't care so much about the California numbers. China numbers is what you should be really looking for. Those are the numbers that really matter. International expansion, I think, is going to be huge. I think the new Gigafactory, like, people are talking about Optimus and Robotaxi and energy and all this stuff, but Giga Mexico was the talk of the town 6 months ago, right? Like, there's a lot of these projects that are going to be tailwinds for the business as we head into the end of the year. And so I'm not really too concerned about sort of cherry picked numbers in certain jurisdictions. You got to look at the sum of the whole, right?
Mm-hmm. And China numbers are doing, adoption rate is actually doing well. And the Shanghai factory, by the way, is not online yet for the Megapack expansion and everything. So there's a lot of what ails Tesla, and I was saying this last quarter as well, and why I was buying a lot is interest rates. And there's been a few pushes towards cuts, and at this point, September is 100% expected to have that first rate cut. Might not, and it's a little bit dangerous when the market prices in something 100%. Like that, because if it doesn't happen, then things are hit. But that's part of the reason why the small cap stocks, the Russell 2000, and some of those that don't fare well in high interest rate environments did very well over the last week and a half. But Tesla is one of those where people can easily forget and look at things like this California registration chart. I can say, as a consumer and somebody that owns a Tesla and it's wanting to buy another, that's a factor for us. If Tesla comes out with news tomorrow that they're offering something under 2% for a new Model Y, we'll get that. We'd have to sell something that we don't want to sell in order to pay for it with cash, and I don't want to be paying 6.5% or 7% or 7.5% interest on a car payment right now. So it's a huge factor, and I have no doubt that California numbers will improve, even as interest rates fall. So
Yeah, I mean, I think the 100% stuff is not great. The prediction markets for interest rates falling has been wrong multiple times in the past. I mean, we were all wrong, like all of us,
oh
in
yeah,
the beginning of the year, with how many rate cuts we thought there was going to be by the end. So that's like a shot in the dark. But I think there's a lot of moving pieces that can affect that number, right? You have a CPI print, PPI, you have unemployment numbers. I mean, you have the news that you just posted to me earlier today about the probability of Biden dropping out this race is like insanely high. Let me throw it up on the screen, and maybe we can pivot to this topic. And I'd love to get some of your thoughts on this.
yeah. And the reason why we talk this is not just for interest, and this is bootleg. We can talk about whatever, but this does impact markets. So
Yeah, look at this. Tell me your thoughts on this, Roy. Talk about prediction markets.
yeah, I mean, I love that we're in a time where we have tools like this so we can kind of see people's reaction. I will say if there was an RSI on this, and there's not, because that's not how this works, the relative strength index,
Yeah, it's like
is it's overbought by a lot. So I would not say 80% chance realistically that he drops out, but I don't know. I'm seeing a lot from the left indicating that there's a lot of influential people that think he should drop out. And as I kind of feel bad for President Biden. I don't, no matter how great you think his health is or what you think he's done over the last 4 years, I don't think he's well. And I would love to see him, enjoy some sort of retirement, like being a president. Like you see how it ages people. And when you're already really old, getting into that, and both of the main candidates are, by the way, it's tough. Yeah. And so I hate seeing him, maybe he wants to run, but I think that, I don't know. I'd probably say if you asked me to make a prediction, I would say, yeah, he's going to drop out. That's real tough though. There's no good option there.
Well, I would say a couple of things. I think the first thing is if you look at this chart and you just look at the x-axis, you'll see this is in days, not months or weeks.
That's a crazy thing. Yeah.
Incredibly volatile. I mean, there's, a news story that comes out. There's a new, new development, and this thing can fluctuate like crazy. And I mean, this is not gospel, right? Like it's not absolutely for sure that he's going to drop out just because people think he is, or if people think he's staying, there's a lot of moving pieces, right? So I don't want anybody to take this as something like a definitive statement. And the second thing I want to, make clear is that this is not really a political statement, whether he does or does not. But the fact of the matter is that with so much or so little time, I should say, left until the actual election, like this will affect markets. It will affect markets because if there's one thing that markets hate, it's uncertainty.
Yes.
And the more uncertainty that is introduced in the market, the worse that is. And so, I do think that it's impactful, regardless of what you think of the politics or what you think of the individual. Uncertainty is the thing that we're trying to combat here. So I don't know. I think that this is just given where we are in this chart. It's a matter of days, I think, until we get some type of more definitive decision. The last time we had this was immediately following the debate when the party was trying to push him out. And he was saying, like, I'm having talks with my family, and Hunter, he's one of the smartest people I know, and all of this stuff. And he was saying, I'm not fucking leaving, like the whole Wolf of Wall Street thing. And now, I mean, look, the chart speaks for itself. This is sort of a census thing, right? Like it's aggregated by what the community feels, what most people feel. So time will tell. But if he does drop out, I think it's still going to be a net negative for the market at the very, very least in the short term, simply due to that uncertainty piece. Roy, what do you think?
And, well, I think that it actually gives the market certainty as far as who will be president if he drops out. I don't. It's too late for really anyone else to come in and have a shot. But where there's uncertainty is I mean, there's still a chunk of his term, 6 months left, and so is he going to be capable of continuing to be president over the next 6 months? I don't think that he'll, resign from that, making Kamala Harris the first female president ever. But I mean, there's a possibility, and so I don't know. I don't think that this would be a huge factor as far as markets pulling back, but it does introduce some uncertainty as far as what policies will actually look like under Trump. Trump has thrown out a few different things there, including, I believe, a 15% corporate tax rate. So that's a reduction there. He's made some mentions of letting. I would say it's a request because you can't say it's more than something like that, but that Powell does not cut rates in September. And as far as EV tax credit, it seems that Donald Trump is very opposed to that. So it changes a lot of things, but there's elements of his platform that are not fully concrete in my mind. So that's a curiosity there. And then where the other uncertainty comes is, I mean, there's a chance that you have to give whoever the candidate is, right? Like it's not going to be 100% Donald Trump. I think it might win 90%, but yeah, that's uncertainty right there. Is that the unknown new candidate? What is their position, and how different is it than what President Biden had?
Yeah, there are so many little things to break apart there. I think that first and foremost, I put this comment up from Jeff. Apparently, there's a speech that's going to be coming shortly. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything on X right now about it. But I mean, just reinforces that idea that it's a matter of days. And then, I mean, secondly, yeah, like you have stories like this. I saw this earlier, and he even posted on X with the whole like, I mean, he got COVID thing. It's every day. It's like a reality TV show, man. It's like the highest produced reality TV show is Your Country, Roy. But like, here's the thing: even if he doesn't run again, I don't necessarily think that that he's gonna fully relinquish power for the remaining 6 months that he does have.
Probably not. Yeah.
Right. It's not like he is the number one shot caller. He has it's led by a committee, right? I mean, if we're just being honest, right? So,
which has happened before, by the way. If anyone doesn't know, it's like it's not the first time. It's just really the first time since Ronald Reagan. So we didn't have the internet back then.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see who the party would throw up as front runners. I mean, there's been a couple of interesting tickets that have been floated. And then, so that's one piece, I think. And then I think the second piece that you mentioned with regards to the Trump politics, I mean, Trump doesn't own Jay Powell. Like he can offer recommendations and probably very strongly worded recommendations, but Jay Powell does what he wants. And by all accounts, I mean, I don't want to, go out on a limb here, but I think that he's handled it fairly okay. I would rather have had, one less hike. I would rather have had a rate cut a little bit earlier, but in large part, the economy proved to be resilient. Unemployment is not up as much as we think it is, or we thought it would be. And I think the market has stabilized in the idea that we're not going to have a hard landing, that it's mostly going to be a trough, and then we're going to recover from there.
Let me ask you. Because it does matter who is president, and it has an impact on a lot of companies, although people are going to the point of saying this is a Donald Trump company and this is a Biden company. And I think that's too far. I think trying to make investment decisions based on that solely is very flawed in a lot of ways. But, I think for Tesla, kind of uniquely, there's a lot of impact from if Donald Trump is elected, and it's not all good. So on one hand, it appears that he is likely to do what he can to phase out the EV tax credits, and that is a headwind for Tesla. He is in favor of rate cuts and also lowering that corporate tax rate. And we had last week, right after the shooting, the assassination attempt, Elon Musk actually came out and endorsed Donald Trump. So I'm curious. If Trump is elected, do you see that as neutral, as a headwind, or a tailwind to Tesla?
So I think Trump is more mercurial than Biden. And I don't say that necessarily in a bad way. I say it in the way that he's been quoted on interviews to be very anti-Musk, and he's been quoted on interviews to be very pro-Musk, and not much time in between those interviews.
It's amazing. It's amazing how some powerful person that has a lot of money and influence and endorses you, and then like, okay, I'm going to talk nice about that guy now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it could be much worse than the treatment that Tesla is having under Biden with regards to the whole union stance.
Yeah.
So I think there's upside, and I mean, Musk is a fairly acute person as macro is concerned. He's smart enough to see the writing on the wall with regards to who he should hitch his wagon to, and especially after Trump, survived the attempt on his life and came out with that photo. Like, I think it's a very measured move to announce that endorsement at that point, because it's a rock and a hard place, man. Like, what are you going to do? Endorse the person who is actively hindering your business? Like, Biden is saying Mary Barra is leading the EV revolution when GM is like rolling out like 40 trucks a quarter. It's ridiculous. So now that we have the Tesla chat out of the way and the politics chat out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Mr. Danny DEALZ. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tevis. Good evening, Roy. Good evening. Hello and welcome. Greetings, salutations. Yeah, I'm a big Tesla investor, big Tesla bull. And I honestly tend to trend a little bit more liberal on like the social issues, kind of libertarian, and then probably more conservative on the fiscal issues. But I think at least most intelligent people, I think most Tesla buyers are intelligent. They'll give people credit just for being forthright. Like you could be everybody knows who he's for. I mean, it's like, I think a lot of people say, hey, I might not agree with his politics, but at least he has the balls to come out and have an opinion. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. I'm like, I don't agree with the guy most ways, but I'd still buy a Tesla any day of the week just because I don't feel like that purchase is necessarily endorsing every viewpoint of the ownership. I just feel like I'm trying to make the best purchase I can. So I'm able to like rationalize anything because I want to make money, but anyway.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about his endorsement in terms of like the long term of Tesla. I mean, whoever wins, Tesla's going to be fine.
Yeah, I don't think this will help California registrations much, but
you know what? I live in a very affluent part of Southern California, and there is half of the people in my neighborhood have Teslas, and they're buying them hand over fist. And these are people that purport to be extremely liberal, but they have tons of money. So they're they're completely full of shit and hypocritical.
So I can double down on the fact that Californians are full of shit and hypocritical. And I can imagine the psyche of a Californian being completely torn between wanting to save the environment and climate change and driving electric, like the virtue signaling associated with that, and then their hatred for Musk as a personal figure, like as a character.
I honestly, I'm enmeshed in these liberal circles. Liberals don't hate Elon Musk the way they hate like Trump or some of the other like conservative figures. Elon Musk is more of an enigma because I think, yes, he has these points of view, but people look at him as more of like kind of as a scientist. A lot of people look at Elon Musk as apolitical, even though he's a very political being. They're able to separate it out. I don't see any slowdown in the momentum of rich liberals in Los Angeles buying Teslas. It's just model wise, every single person, brand new, and they get them every 2 years. So they're all waiting for that refresh, and they're just going to buy tons of them when that 2025 comes out, I think.
Yeah, and if it would be different if he had been apolitical up to this point, but Musk has not been. So
everyone knows where he stands, right?
Now, this picture, by the way, I posted this during the blackout when we were waiting for a supercharge. And I was like, man, why is there a Honda Civic in this line of Teslas waiting? It's because it's not. It's actually a Tesla. It's hard to see the letters here, but they just bought the decals. I don't know. This guy might have just been doing it for some joke. And I disguised his license plate, by the way. It didn't look like that. But I have a relative actually that loves EVs, that loathes Musk and will not buy a Tesla because of that. But He's basically said, yeah, I've studied and researched and looked at every other EV that's here in the United States, and they're just not worth it. Only a Tesla. So there's a lot of people that are just like, okay, so at what point do you settle for an inferior product? Or if you're against gas guzzling vehicles, you go that way, instead of just saying, okay, what's one more Tesla on the road? I'm just going to buy it. So yeah, there are a few that will absolutely not, but most people are like, when they look around, they test drive things. They find out real fast that if you're going to buy an EV vehicle in the United States, unless you just have a lot of money, like, I don't know why you wouldn't buy a Tesla. I just don't.
And the charging networks, I mean, that's the number one thing I hear. Like ChargePoint, they're 60% down. If you're outside the Tesla charging network in America, you're screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have no idea if you're going to be able to charge. You're going to be late for work. Like in the real world, you can't go charger to charger making YouTube videos, with some fat guy in a flannel. Like, hey, Dad, how far did we get? He's like, I don't know, son. Like, let's go up the hill. It's like, give me something I can use. He's like, my Hummer's been stuck here for... No, I love fast lane trucks. Like, I love those guys. So I do imitations of them. But the point is, in the real world, if it doesn't work, it's not going to get adopted. That's why Tesla's getting adopted, because they built the damn charging network. Yeah. I mean, FSD, all of us investors talk about it, but it's still not even there. Tesla works thus far. The growth is because they're charging, and their technology is great. I mean, it's an efficient vehicle, and it's a tremendous value. I mean, the Model 3, I mean, it's the same price as a Toyota Camry, basically.
So I think that also, the thing is also that like the branding is so, like, because they had first to market in terms of that like mass scale. I know we can, because we are investing in Tesla and also competitors, but I doubt the average consumer can name 3 pure EV companies.
Yeah, there's no way.
Right?
There's no way.
They can probably name you some hybrid car or some model from GM or Ford or whatever, but they can't name you any other pure EV companies than Tesla. And I think that's a really telling thing. It's because in the mind of the average consumer, the non-investor, it's just Tesla is the only option for pure EV, really.
And not even Rivian's there, unless you're in a very specific locale in the United States. They're still fairly rare. They're not selling real fast. And my relative, I guess he really dug into Rivian's. He's like, yeah, they're just not as reliable as Tesla. Yeah, I like the company, but
I think Rivian's going to go bankrupt. I mean, I don't think Amazon, it's the Lucid paradox. I mean, you're trying to scale at a $90,000 entry price point. It's like, yeah, they sell here, but think about how much money you have to make a $90,000 car payment at these interest rates. I mean, your car payment's going to be $2,000. It's like, it's a tough business model because your total addressable market is just small. So it's stupid. Like if Elon Musk didn't get the Model 3 to market, Tesla's dead. They don't survive with the Model S. I don't get this Rawlinson idiot out in Arizona. I mean, you have great motors, you have great technology, but you don't understand the market. Elon Musk understands. He understood where to start, not too low, not too high, when to scale. He got it all right, man. He threaded the needle and he started a new car company. And people want to hate him because he's got his political views. I'm just not going to go there. I mean, I just disagree with the guy, but I just don't want to live in an America where if you have some political views, because I mean, aren't we divided enough, tribalized enough? I'm not going to do it more over freaking cars. I think in a lot of ways, the guy's kind of off the cuff idiot. He just talks. He likes to run his mouth. A lot of times he talks before he even knows what he's really saying. It gets him in trouble. He's like, whoops, hey, I'm a really smart guy, but I just say stuff.
I mean, he's all of us in that sense. Like, I have said the stupidest shit online. I'm sure Roy maybe less so because he's a pretty measured guy. Danny, I mean, you definitely have.
Yeah, that's my bit. Yeah.
But it doesn't make you any less, like, I don't know, like, people just say the amount of shit that's said online on any given day on Twitter is immense. Like, you're bound to trip up something.
I think it's the same appeal why people like Trump. I mean, they just view themselves in him, that he's real. you know, I disagree like so many viewpoints, but I see why it is. Like people, you know, people are like, oh, he's been in the WWE professional wrestling, like that disqualifies him. His voters love that. They love this stuff. They eat this stuff up. Monster trucks, professional wrestling. I mean, look who spoke before him at RNC. It's Dana White from from the UFC. It's like people misunderstand where he's going. They're like, what they think disqualifies him is his brand. It's like I don't understand I don't understand that people don't get it. You know, that people don't get Musk, that people don't get Trump. You can disagree with them, you can hate them, but I don't know. They're not going away. Like, and I don't think Tesla is going to be, I don't see the numbers being affected one bit. I just think it was interest rates. Yeah. I mean, I think when interest rates go down and if Tesla keeps their prices down, it's going to explode. I mean, it's going to be huge. Politics be damned. You know, yeah, that's what I'm sputtering out.
Yeah, and even if the EV tax credits go away completely, if the interest rates are lower, they'll be fine. I mean, like they'll actually see an acceleration in their sales because not everybody has, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 they can just plunk down into a car. So, you know, some people are. That's great if you're one of those guys. I'll disagree with you on Rivian. I think Volkswagen, the partnership that they have, throws them a lifeline. I always thought of them as a buyout candidate at worst case, and that may be the road that it's going down. But it's a nice company, nice product. Scaling is really hard.
It's a great product.
I think that they'll get there, and it's actually good for Tesla if there are other EVs out there because they can sell and market some of their, you know, of course, the supercharger network, but some of the other things that they're doing too directly to them.
Yeah, if they can scale that new model, that's more mid-price. That's obviously what Tesla did. If they can do that, I agree with you. But yeah, and I think it's really hard to get there because they just burned so much money. They went so big, so you know. I just think you saw what Tesla did start with the mid-price vehicle like that. I don't understand that, but yeah, you know, I'm not CEO of anything. So,
and as far as with Rivian, it was funny when they IPO'd my middle son, who doesn't do much investing, but he does a little bit. He bought a share of Rivian. I think just one, maybe a couple. And he's like, wow, look, I'm up, you know, and it was a crazy, crazy IPO. I'm like, you should take your profits. The company is good, but not worth that anywhere near, even before the recession and everything, interest rates came up. Now, what the danger is, though, for people that are buying the vehicle, not the stock, from another pure EV company is you have no guarantee other than with Tesla here in the United States that company is going to be around. And so we drive a Tesla. We have a 22 Model Y. We had, sadly, our 2018 Ford Fusion Hybrid, which we really liked. And we've driven that since it was brand new. It was totaled in a wreck. Somebody ran a red light. And we had a very fair payout, but we were looking for another vehicle. So this last week, I went to San Antonio. There's a private seller that had a really nice EV, 2021 Model 3. And it was a prior battery type. He told me it was lithium phosphate, and it wasn't. So I wasn't too interested at that point. But I asked why he was getting rid of it. He said that it's because he bought a newer EV that he liked better. Guess the company. It's a pure EV company that he bought.
Xpeng.
Nope.
Not in America. Who? Polestar? Who? I don't know. Who could it be?
Fisker. He got a Fisker Ocean.
Oh. Wow, I don't see many of those even in LA.
No, and they, you know, he said, I asked, well, why did you buy a Fisker? He's like, well, I kind of like, you know, some of the features like the solar on the roof. He knows it's not that efficient, and you know, it has a lot of bells and whistles. But
yeah, man,
this is a company that is now bankrupt and that did tech so poorly that when they needed to roll out a software update, they had to send out physical engineers physically to cars and do those software updates. And I'm like, you know, he'd already made his decision and everything. But when I walked away from that deal and, you know, we weren't mad at each other or anything, I was like, I'm probably doing this guy a favor just because he'll still have the Tesla there. I can't imagine buying, you know, something like that. And then just if something breaks, it's like, it's a very unique vehicle. You don't have support.
early adopter is a ballsy move. I mean, an interesting, just to backtrack, like Volkswagen just sent like 300 engineers to China to Xpeng's office, like with that partnership. So I wouldn't put too much stock. I feel like that Xpeng deal is going to go a lot further than the Rivian deal, because with Xpeng you get full self-driving, you get a full suite of software. They just have in my mind, maybe I'm completely off base, but in my mind, one of these Chinese companies that's like fully integrated, and I know the government's supporting them with AI and mapping and all these things, unfair subsidies. I mean, Tesla got subsidies too, but I just feel like that's going to bear more fruit than Rivian. I don't see really how much maybe I don't understand their technology, but I've been in Rivian. Like, they're beautiful, they're amazing. The power, I wish I could afford one. You know, I live so close to work, it doesn't make any sense for me. I walk, you know, so it would just be vanity. But I wish I could, because they're freaking gorgeous, and like 3 seconds. It's incredible, but I'm just saying the market for a guy who can afford that $100,000 toy, given their market cap, the size they have to get to, it has to be that cheaper car. And I just think they have to get away from these, you know, these giant vehicles. I don't think they're like, to me, that Lucid Gravity has a better shot than the full size. You know, that's a beautiful car. Like the Rivian, I think as a utilitarian appeal, it's very boxy, but I don't know. I think they're going bankrupt, Roy. I hope I'm wrong, because more players, better, more EVs, better.
Yeah.
And I really like Rivians, but I just think they had a bad business model. That's all.
Yeah. I think Lucid's more likely to go bankrupt of the two, but
I think they're both.
Yeah.
You know,
Why not?
They both could, honestly.
I think Lucid definitely. I mean, they're out to lunch. I mean, they have Saudi, that Prince bin cut your head off, just pumping in cash. Here, it's like an incinerator. He's like, here's 3 more billion. And the stock keeps going down, and he just keeps putting in money, and they ship no units. Like, they can't give those things away. I have one of those dealerships right by my house. Like, there's no activity there. There's like cobwebs everywhere. Yeah. It used to be a Ferrari dealer, and it was busy then, but
yeah, I was at a Tesla. It's not called dealership, but I think it's the largest one here in Houston. It's larger than the one that I did the test drives out of, and yeah, I was very busy the day that we went. And this is, I think, 2 days after the hurricane hit, and everybody's still without power and stuff. So just a lot of interest there. And by the way, I saw the new Model 3, the Model 3 Performance. That thing is sick. I like my Model 3 a lot, but I'm like, oh man.
Dude, I saw a Cybertruck parked at my building yesterday. I was walking home, and I just literally turned, and a Cybertruck was parked right in front. I was like, what is going on? Because before that, I'd only seen one in Canada, and now I just saw the second one in pretty short succession. So they're coming up north as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of them.
And the thing is, Danny, like when I saw it, like I turned and I saw it, and then I saw some guy with a bike stop and like take a picture of it, and they were like looking inside to see. It's just, it draws so many eyeballs. Yeah. It's insane.
When I saw it online, I made fun of the design, because I'm a Chevy C10 guy, like 67 to 72 C10s. That's my game, like old school trucks. And so I'm like, yeah, but when you see it in person, it's badass. Like, it looks really cool. Like, you know, it's so opposite the Rivian. It's just such a yin yang thing. Like, they're both really cool. They're both totally opposite. I hope, you know, they both do well. I don't think Cybertruck's going to be a big moneymaker. I think same thing, limited market. Like, even truck guys, a lot of truck guys just aren't going to buy that truck. And a lot of guys are going to buy it who aren't truck guys. They just want the tech, want the cool. But I just think it's more of like a vanity thing for Musk, you know, more than anything. I think it would have been better to focus on the economy car. That's my opinion. I would have rather go for units. That's just me, you know, stack them high and sell them cheap.
Yeah, and those are easier to push out. The Model 2, if they do that separately, then the Robotaxi, that's the one project that I think that will be on time, other than the Y, simply because they can do it on the same assembly line. So they don't have to reinvent the wheel. In fact, they're going to do the opposite. They're going to take away the steering wheel. So maybe in the robotaxi. But yeah, Cybertruck, the thing is, when the economy is clearly headed down, interest rates are going up, perfect time for that entry model. But they had already put in a lot of research and development into the Cybertruck. So I'm fine with them releasing that. It would have been nice to also have seen the Model 2. What do you guys think? This August 8th event, there's rumors and speculation and a news article that Musk did not rebut, as far as I can tell, that the August 8th event has been postponed until October. You think that's legitimate or not, or does it not really matter?
I don't know. I don't think it matters. I think these events are all kind of, puffery. Like, you don't necessarily, I don't think you learn that much new stuff. Like, because a lot of people on YouTube are like scooping. These freaking U-turders are crawling all over the factories, and like Elon Musk knows these guys. It's there's too much access. There's too much access for these YouTubers. They're too big for their britches. Some of these Tesla YouTubers, they think they're celebrities in their own right. But that just sticks in my craw. It's neither here nor there. But
that's gonna be
I don't really pay that much attention to the events. I just think it's all like whatever they say is going to happen. It may or may not happen if it's beneficial for their stock price when they want it to go up. I don't. That's my thing. I think they move the price when they want to move the price. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, this one's interesting just to kind of see the layout of that plan and the development. I think that we'll get some details on that and maybe an announcement of some pilot programs that are happening in some cities. And so that will give us an idea of how far out that is and what that will look like. And hopefully it'll tell us if there is going to be a separate vehicle beyond the Model 2 for the robotaxi only. So it's important, but it's not like if they delay it from August to October.
Let me ask you a question. Being in Texas, what is like the FSD testing regulation? Because I know a lot of that was going on out in California, where they were like the DMV was authorizing FSD, but then Tesla's moving everything to Texas. So is Texas letting these things run wild everywhere and run into traffic cops, or is it?
Hold on, Roy. Before you answer that, can I bring onto the stage Mr. TJ the Wheel Deal?
What's up?
We have a full crew here. I love it.
What's up, TJ?
Well, man, if you're gonna come on this channel and this dude's on here, you got to say hello and welcome and
welcome and hello, my good man.
You fucking retards.
Your haircut reminds me of Not a Lurker. Feel like I'm at home.
How are you guys, man? Pleasure to meet you, Danny. Good. There's Not a Lurker.
The man, the myth, the legend. Those glasses. My God. I'm dragging you guys down.
How are you, Roy?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, man. Dude, Roy and his wife are responsible for me gaining like 3 pounds. They introduced me to that damn snack, the fried, what the heck is it?
Zucchini?
Dude.
Yeah.
God, we can't get enough of it, dude. We always ask if it's at the... if they have it as an appetizer, can they make it for us?
I love zucchini.
How are you guys doing, man? What are y'all talking about tonight?
Mostly Tesla. I think we'll mention some Sofi here in a bit too. It's a little bit connected, and we talked about the impact of politics, of Biden dropping out or Trump winning the election on Tesla specifically. Too. Earnings are, of course, next week. So you own a chunk of Tesla, right, TJ? Willing it?
Yeah, it's and have a pretty decent sizing in SoFi as well.
So Danny had asked a question of what regulation was like in Texas as far as autonomous driving. Well, that's the article themselves. Basically, Texas is very favorable. There was, and I was looking for it. I thought I did a post on it a while ago, and you could chime in on this too, TJ. You're a Texan. Is that the state Senate had basically paved the way for autonomous driving. And this was years ago. I think this was like 2017, 2018. This itself, they're building a smart highway that's actually designed for autonomous freight within Austin. And you can kind of think of Austin. It's a little bit weird. Like their slogan is keep Austin
Keep
weird.
Austin weird. Yeah.
But they're kind of like San Francisco of Texas, if that makes sense. That in both good and bad ways. But as far as if they roll out some pilot programs of autonomous vehicles, I would be shocked if Austin is not one of those cities where that is done. Just because this sort of development, just because of where Tesla is, and because of how favorable it is in Texas. And so, yeah, I think that there would be no issues or problems here in the United States. And the other factor too is on the federal level, there is the Chevron case that came up. The Chevron, there's a word I'm missing. It's not Chevron doctrine, but it used to be that these federal agencies would be able to say, okay, even though there's not an explicit law in the books for us to be able to make decisions to operate by, we can use this Chevron doctrine. It was a case, I think it was from the early 80s, 1984, if I'm not mistaken, and use that to just wield a federal whip to control regulation. Now that has actually been overturned and repealed, that opens up the door for more in the framework of autonomous driving, and that's very good for full self-driving and the robotaxi. That was just, I think, 2 months ago.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
that's yet to get.
I think Texas is ideal. Like, I mean, have y'all ever driven from like San Antonio to El Paso?
Not yet, but
What I'm saying, that's like 527 or 29 miles of absolutely nothing to do. And it's a wide open road. I think they let you go like 80 or 85 miles an hour on this thing. I think that it's a badass nap opportunity and let Tesla do its thing. Because what are you going to run into? You know what I mean? Like there's shit out there. And it's like I think Fort Stockton is the halfway point. It is. So there's opportunities there, I think, for full self-driving and a lot of experimentation pretty safely, in my opinion. And as far as like technology and being progressive, Austin's a lot of things, but it's also very risk-taking.
It is.
So it's very progressive. That's as progressive as we have in Texas. We call it a mini San Francisco, if you will. So I think it's ideal. And I think that Elon probably thought about all of those things whenever they decided to build that what is it? What do they call them? Mega factories? I don't even know what the hell Tesla calls it.
Gigafactory.
Yeah, Gigafactory. It makes sense. Like I feel like these guys are playing checkers and we're trying to play chess here on YouTube, trying to piece together everything.
Yeah, the other thing is Austin is the state capital of Texas. You know, it's here in the Texas Triangle, and so populous area. A lot of people employed by Tesla. I know some, and it's when the move was announced from Delaware here to Texas. I mean, there's people that are, you know, not interested in EVs at all that are just like, yeah, Texas, that'll be very much in favor of Tesla because it's a Texan thing now. That's just the way Texas works. So, yeah, I think that this is going to be an area that I don't know what'll happen in the rest of the United States, but proof of concept may play out here in Texas. And I got to enjoy full self-driving there. Not the most recent version, but was very impressed with it. It did try to murder me once, full disclosure. But aside from trying to murder me one time, which I can forgive once, twice, no. It was very good. It was so impressive that my wife and my daughter said that full self-driving drove better than I did. So, which maybe speaks to my driving ability. I don't know.
Yeah,
it
my
speaks
son,
to your need for full self-driving, son.
Yeah.
Safe.
Yeah, I mean, we're fans. We just recently helped get my son the Model Y, and he's doing Uber and Lyft with it part time, and it's just, he says, so easy because the car does most of the heavy lifting, and he's just chit chatting with the passengers, trying to squeeze them for a tip, if you will.
All right, so I'm going to change this conversation simply because I have to go in 30 minutes, and I can't have this crew without talking about SoFi.
Yes.
So
I love me some SoFi.
Let me just get out my SoFi cowbell there, Tevis.
I don't know how many shares I got to buy so Anthony can get a cap, bro. I just want a cap, a mug, a hoodie, something.
Dude, seriously, tell me about it.
I've got so much merch here. I'll send you some.
All right,
Dude, look it up.
Danny, kick us off, man. Kick us off with SoFi. What's going on with SoFi?
I mean, right where we are, 23% move in the last 8 days, coming off of 619, touched 8, rejected, flirting last 3 days with the 150-day moving average, sitting well above the 50-day, broke through that nicely, moved up basically into a new channel. We were in a channel that's like a 6-month channel. We kicked up into basically a bunch of institutions started buying the stock all at once. They flipped on some slower short bus shorts, and they're like, we're leaving you there to die, and we're flipping, and we're going to make a lot of money on the other side. That's what I feel like happened, because I'm looking at the filings. I realize they're not real time, but there's just a ton of institutions buying the stock. Institutional ownership is at an all-time high, which is really what the stocks needed the whole time. I mean, fundamentals be damned. It's an exciting time if you look at the chart, because there's really nothing indicating it can't break through $8. I mean, I don't see any resistance till about 904. I just think the moves have been, the last move was 60%, the move before that was 120%, the move before that was 82%. And this has been a longer setup than any of those. It likes to move, Tevis. It likes to move. This horse likes to run.
$8 is like 15 cents away. Dream bigger, baby. Dream bigger.
Oh,
it's
no.
2 weeks going into earnings, 18% short interest with a stock that rips like a motherfucker from $4 to $12, $7 to $10 in a matter of days, if not weeks.
Could be 16 a couple days after earnings. I mean, this could blow your depends right off, Tevis. I mean, I'm telling you. I saw you down like Rio or wherever you were. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. You traders are living the life.
Dude, the more SoFi falls, the more I'm on a beach. I'm not shorting it, I promise.
You're on a beach no matter what. You're leading a team. Tanner's selling a course. I'm swinging a hammer. Roy's buying a second Tesla.
Bro, you have more SoFi than all of us combined.
Well, yeah, but it's in the shitter.
Maybe not TJ, but the rest of us definitely.
Yeah, I was gonna say TJ has us, all three of us beats.
Yeah, you guys, Tevis, your lukewarm video. I got so angry at you for like 10 seconds. You were like, you're just hedging, man. It's
I made another. It's actually in editing right now. I was gonna post it after this, and it's me being bullish. I don't know what happened to my camera. I think somebody's calling me, but yeah,
that's why we love Tevis. The bullish Tevis, the young Elvis Tevis, the well-rested Tevis.
As far as the only thing holding the company back is, I guess, two things. A little bit interest rates. It does affect the company, but it affects the stock a lot more. And that's one of the reasons why we've seen that reversal. One of several reasons. And there were days, somebody had retweeted a tweet of mine and said, well, it's just moving with the banks. And some days it did that, and some days it did not. SoFi has a mind of its own, and it's very volatile. But largely, their wounds are self-inflicted this year. There are products that they have developed that they would like to roll out, and it's just not the environment for it. They've made a deliberate move to be cautious in the lending sector, and so they're scaling that back. And it seems that their cautious assumptions might have been the most accurate of any company going in as far as the number of rate cuts and the size of that. So well done, but at some point that's going to reverse. That these choices that they're making now are not forever. They are going to release new products. They are absolutely going to open up their lending book. And one of those areas that I'm really interested to see is they acquired that Wyndham Capital business for their mortgages, but it was in a terrible environment for home sales. And so they've not done a lot of lending with that. So I'm curious how well that they do in that. And then as we get closer to that student loan deadline, as far as when real penalties come, if there are interest rates falling at the same time, the rates on student loans are unlike anything that any student has seen before, and especially at the grad plus level. So there will be a point when people remember, like, hey, SoFi actually did student loans pretty well. There are fewer competitors now, and all of a sudden you have a high likelihood of President Trump being reelected. And if that's the case, he's very much not in favor of student loans too. So a lot of future tailwinds that are not there yet, but the market is forward looking. So I think we're seeing some of that right now.
Federal court just struck down one of the student loan deals today. I mean, every one of those things is getting killed. You got to pay your bills back. You know, that's what the courts are saying. You can't just, I mean, if you're with one of these scam ITT companies and you get, you know, that's one thing. But most of these people just don't want to pay it back. I mean, you know.
I previously I worked for a major college, and I remember shortly after Biden was elected, talking with a student that wanted to see, his first question was, how much of a loan could I get? And I asked why he asked that question, because that's not the normal thing. And he said, well, because loans are going to be forgiven, so I want to have as much money now as I can get. That person does not deserve forgiveness.
Yeah. There's a lot of people stop paying rent. You know, a lot of different things happen. People just went crazy. But one of the things I think with SoFi in terms of interest rates is the high rates have allowed them to set up so well, just raking in deposits and customers, that they have this coiled spring. So when they get those rate cuts, I mean, they own student loans. Discover, Capital One or bought Discover, and they just sold off their entire student loan portfolio to some PE douchebags. So, and they got a nice premium for that loan book, a really nice premium. So who's competing with SoFi for those super premium student loan refi customers? Nobody. And those guys have 790 credit. They have 200,000 income. Those guys are going to get mortgages. Those guys are going to open small business accounts. People don't even conceive of what this wheel is. It's not a wheel. It's an infinity sign with business banking on one side, personal banking on the other, and my heart right in the middle. You know, I think earnings is going to be 3 cents. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but these members that are coming on, LaPointe said they're cross-selling way faster. More and more members buying a second product in 30 days. It's accelerating very rapidly. So we're starting to see the wheel working even with these super high rates.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
TJ.
I think the one thing, though, guys, that I feel like a lot of YouTubers miss with SoFi and investors as well is their banking is very profitable. It's very efficient. I think the flywheel, the way that they can cross merchandise, it's like they're mastering the McDonald's approach, which is slice fries with that. That's what SoFi is, right? And that's really, really awesome. You might spend a lot of money acquiring the customer, but once you have them in your ecosystem, like I'm in their ecosystem with a credit card, and my God, they inundate me daily with a bunch of shit. And eventually they're going to get me because you give in, right? You give in, you see the shit. I just got one for get a personal loan. I don't need any money, but well, you know what? I mean, if you're going to put me at 8%, let me look at it. You know, I opened the letter, and once I do it 3 or 4 more times, I'll probably fill out the application and get 20, 30 grand just because, right? But here's the thing, though. If we want to change, if we want to get a higher multiple, I think that we need to change the narrative. And the narrative is we didn't invest in SoFi because it's a bank. Raise your hand if you invested in SoFi because it's a bank or it has a bank. You're going to keep your fucking hand down because you didn't do it. Neither did I. We invested because of the technology platform that is Galileo and whatever the fuck Technisys is. That I'm not even sure what it is. So I think that we need to learn more about that, and we need to educate people more on that, because that is, if they have a moat, that's the moat. It's not the flywheel. The flywheel is sexy, but is that a moat? I think the moat has to be, hey, we have this technological component that if you want to dance with us, you got to pay us. We're going to be the AWS of fucking fintech, and we're going to get money for all these transactions, but nobody ever talks about it because I don't think anybody really understands it. And that's where I think SoFi and my beloved Anthony Noto are dropping the ball a little bit, because they're not pumping that. Tesla isn't fucking pumping how fast their cars are anymore. That was 5-6 years ago. They're pumping FSD, they're pumping AI, they're pumping robotics, they're pumping all of this shit that's real hard to quantify, because that creates the hybrid multiple that we so desperately want.
Every interview they ask Noto about AI, and every time he demurs, he's like, well, we use a variety of techniques, and by the way, adjusted EBITDA.
Who's the Galileo guy?
Derek White. That 51-minute interview, if every investor had the patience to watch that, I watched it twice because I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but the vision of this man is extraordinary. And then his resume, building Google's product, spending years in Europe leading big teams. And then he was in Asia leading a big team in China. I mean, this guy has been a massive success all over the world. He's a world-class CEO. And we've got him in this little turd company in Utah. And when you listen to what he's going to make that thing into and what we can buy that for, I'm just excited. I mean, I think this is like this 23% move. It's just a taste. You're just wetting your beak. It's not share. It's just a taste. Like you haven't all these cumulative great earnings reports, the growth, the beats, the raises. Everybody's just, they just fret and they're like, oh, it didn't go up. Like these things don't just disappear. Have patience. Use logic. I mean, I know I'm the top Karen in the world, but if you weren't buying this thing at 620, everybody's like, it's going to 5. Like, what numbers are you looking at?
Right.
What numbers are you? They're telling you 80 cents. They're always sandbagging. Galileo's about to explode. LaPointe just said it. He said, we're onboarding dozens. He used plural, dozens of customers. He said, some are in the early stages of monetization. Some are in, being onboarded to the platform, but he's talking, and the average client now is like 3 million. So right now they're onboarding at a minimum 60 million members, a minimum. And he's telling you that directly in an interview. And everybody's like, there's no growth. I mean, they grew from 30 million members in Q1 2020 to 151 million 4 years later. I mean, okay, that's 5x. What are people looking for? I know what you're absolutely right, TJ. We're not going to get that multiple until they sell the narrative. Or until it just starts bringing in so much money you can't ignore it. But Nodo's never going to push. Nodo's never going to do it.
It starts with us as well, because I have a super small channel. Tevis has a big channel. Obviously, Amit has a big one. There's people with really big channels that cover SoFi as well. And I think that we also need to make a concerted effort to learn more about Galileo. But every time I try to dig, dude, I'm not an archaeologist, first of all. I'm not a fucking librarian. I don't have any money. I ain't going to sit here and read all these stupid books. Give me the Cliff Notes version of the shit. Let me know what's going on with it. But it's hard to find information on this kind of stuff. It's tough, man. It's not at your fingertips, if you will. And I don't know why it's not readily accessible, because I feel like that's the narrative that they should be pushing, because that's what gives the multiples to get to 25 or 45 with the parachute. It's
a B2B, like hidden type of thing. And then a lot of the clients don't want their name mentioned. So I think they're just going to have to wait and let the books talk. I think that's just the unfortunate, like, I want exactly what you want. And I try to pump Galileo. I mean, I pump the SoFi stock every single day, but I make no apologies. I think it's undervalued. I never told anybody to buy it at 12. I never told anybody to buy it at 11. I started making videos when it was like 450. I never wanted a YouTube at all, but I was like, come on. This thing at 4, and then I honestly believe the shit I say, but
look, man, after a while, this shit becomes like, the longer that it stays in a range, it becomes more and more polarizing from a retail investor perspective. They either get completely turned off, or they dig their heels in and they get much more adamant, much more bullish. And the fact of the matter is, at some point, the writing is on the wall. It's just a matter of interpretation, how you perceive it. And if you don't want to buy it at 6, then that's fine. Like, there's only so much convincing you can do for some people. And the fact of the matter is that those people who don't buy it at 6, many of them will end up buying it at 12.
Right.
That's what it is.
And a lot of people would rather buy a stock once they have confirmation. I mean, you have more winners, you have less upside, but you have more safety. I mean, that's nothing wrong. I'm not mad at anybody that doesn't want to buy SoFi. I'm just saying I'm not pumping it. I have a legitimate conviction. It's my number one growth stock, my number one long-term play. And
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when there's 4 quarters of profitability, right? Because a lot of people who are still skeptical or bearish on the company are hiding beneath the fact that on a trailing 12-month basis, this thing is not profitable. And meanwhile, we can see, the latest quarter was profitable. The next quarter is going to be profitable, and we can see that trend line and extrapolate that out and make an estimated guess to say, okay, well, this is a profitable company now going forward. But some people still need that, like the lagging indicators, and that's fine. I talked to Jeremy from Financial Education. It was a really big channel. I had him on the channel and I talked to him about SoFi. And back at the time, SoFi had not had any profitable quarter. This was like Q3, I think. And he basically said, hey, look, I love SoFi. I love what they're doing. I love the trend. I want to invest on them once they're profitable, once they have confirmation. And that's fine. And he did that. And now he's in the stock and he talks about it and it's great awareness. But there's so many people who 1 quarter of profitability is not enough for them. They need maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until they have sufficient data to trust management. And I think that we on the bullish side sort of trust management implicitly because they've never given us a reason not to trust them. They've always underpromised and overdelivered.
Because we're fools.
Yeah, pretty much.
Gary Garver, he needs like 20 years of proof. I mean, some people are never going to be convinced by what they don't understand and they're too lazy to study it. I mean, this industry has to be disrupted. These technology is coming into this industry. I mean, kicking and screaming, mortgages, loans, whatever it is. And SoFi is just extremely well positioned. Nobody's saying they're going to supplant Chase. Nobody with the brain. I mean, these companies have 500 billion market cap. SoFi's 8 billion. The great thing is they can just take market share in crumbs and grow tremendously. And like some of these big banks won't even notice for a long time. And we can just reap the benefits. They're going to 10x EPS. They're looking for 8 cents this year. Noto's telling you 80 cents in 2026. 10x EPS. And they're saying this thing's overvalued. I mean, the coordinated price target downgrades on the same day, a couple weeks before earnings. What is that? Have you guys noticed the KBW calls? Yeah. That New Year's downgrade, and then they trashed that guy who had the big bowling ball head, who looked like that 2-bit mafioso from like a Cinemax movie, Michael Perito, the parrot. They trashed him and they brought in some dude, Tim Switzer, who's only done like 8 ratings in his life because they wanted to hit it with another downgrade and they didn't want it to be so obvious. I know I just see conspiracies, but their downgrades on this stock have been well timed with attacks and they've been stupid and they never have a point. They're never timed with any logical news. It's just, hey, we're going to cut our target. Barclays is cutting our target price $2 on the same day KBW cuts the target price in the middle of the ocean. Hey, these 2 boats just randomly ran into each other and cut the stock. I don't know, guys. I'm just such a bitter Karen turd old. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm losing my voice too. Sorry, TJ. You've never been on with me, but this is how I am.
Now, I've listened to a handful of your channel, your podcast, dude. You're fucking entertaining.
Thanks, man.
Did you work as a VJ or something? I mean, because you got
I dabbled in comedy writing, just improv, a lot of improv.
Because you call me a turd and I listen to you and it doesn't even offend me. So there's only
no, turd is a term of endearment. Yeah. No, I'm the head turd, man. It's Turd Army. We're grinders, man. We're the other guys. Guys who watch my channel, they're hardworking people, man. I respect my audience. Like I say turds, it's like they're the salt of the earth. They're the guys pulling on the rope. They're the guys going to work every day, 12 hours. I hear these guys I got firemen, I got engineers, I've got surgeons, and these guys watching me. They're like, hey man, we just want to laugh. Like I'm not listening to you. So I'm going to do anything you say. You're an idiot. I'm like, all right. I don't know. That doesn't sound that great, but okay.
Not a lurker is fucking dying in the background.
I already know. I don't have any water, not a lurker. I'm out. Anyway, guys,
how do you guys feel about it? I mean, y'all probably already talked about it several times, but how do y'all feel about like the member growth and stuff? Is this where we get the NBA action, or did that already happen? Because I don't follow those numbers like that. I look at option exchange and I'm like, how can I make a shitload of money? Because that's my game, right? So what's going on with the member growth? Are we expecting to knock it out of the park, or it feels like things have been a little bit quiet? And I follow data-driven investing. And he feels like this is the less certain quarter of SoFi since they've been a public company.
I want to jump on that first because I'm in the same boat. I feel like this is going to be, and I mean, Danny, you talked about it with the lukewarm quarter. I think this is going to be the lukewarm quarter because all of their guidance, they're pushing to the back half of the year.
Right.
And all of their expectations from a new product launch. I mean, they promised credit card innovation towards the back half of the year. You got to also keep in mind, TJ, that the NBA I mean, we've been in the off season right now, right?
Right.
When Q3 rolls around and Q4 rolls around, we're going to get that double effect of having the NBA and the NFL for like the first year when they're both working in our favor. News has been really quiet forward for Q2. And so, you know, I think if you put all those things together, this quarter is not going to be probably as strong as we expect. But I'm really confident that we can still hit that 1 million quarter towards the back half of the year when both of those things are working in conjunction.
I think cross-selling will be a little bit stronger than last quarter, just based on what LaPointe said. I hadn't heard him really mention that type of acceleration before, so I think we might see a little bit more than that usual, you know, fraction we see. But I don't think members is going to be anything off the charts. No, I don't think it's going to be any shocker. I mean, they've honestly been adding sort of that, you know, 600, 700, 585, 622. So I just think it's going to be right in that same area. You want to see an acceleration, obviously, as a proportion. I mean, I'm not honestly super excited about, you know, the member ads. I think they're solid, but it's not the type of growth you're going to like TJ says. That's not the type of growth you're going to get the multiple we want.
Right.
It's just it's pedestrian. You know, it's good. I'm not upset about it as an investor, but it's just a linear growth. You know, it's not any type of like a new growth or even sometime you see hood. It's just solid. You know,
I think that this earnings report is extremely crucial, and I think it's all going to be about the tone of the guidance.
Yes.
Like I think I think that the call is going to be way more critical than the numbers. And I think that Anthony Noto has to put on his sales hat a little bit and sell this vision so that they don't get punished for the in my opinion, purposeful or whatever the fuck the word is. Like, I feel like they grew intentionally at a slower speed to ramp up because I think they got some big things cooking towards the end of the year and they all wanted to hit at the same time because Anthony Noto is going to get his golden parachute. Like, the dude did not take this job to like not get paid.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, like, let's just take a step back. The very first time I ever went on YouTube on a Myth channel talking about Sofi, I'm like, dude, this dude has the resume of resumes. Like, this job was one that he selected. It wasn't one that, oh, fuck, mommy, dad, we're in poverty and all this shit, and I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. This dude has the resume of resumes, and he gets to pick and choose where the hell he wants to spend his time. And he saw something here because there was an opportunity where he was going to be able to captain the ship, if you will. And he's playing checkers. He's playing chess, and a lot of investors are playing checkers. And he has a plan in place. I don't know what it is. It's 25, 35, 45. I don't know how it all works out. But I've got 1,000 leaps that say that this shit's going to $45 in 2026 because when he gets paid, I'm going to get paid too. Not as much, but we're going to get paid. You know, I wanted to align myself with his goals, his payment structure. Tevis can talk more about that shit. I don't geek out like that.
He took the job. They did $300 million.
I'll say, as far as quarter two, I think it'll be a good quarter, not a great quarter. I think quarter three will be a great quarter, not a good quarter. And that's when we'll actually see that acceleration. We'll get more certainty as far as interest rates within quarter three. And I think that will help them open up the book maybe just a little bit as far as lending. Like Tevis said, I think member growth, that we'll see that accelerate much more in quarter three, although we'll get some of the NBA benefit from quarter two. I just think it's going to be probably around 600, not 600 million, 600 million. Yeah, but it would be maybe a little bit less than what we had in the previous quarter, in quarter one. So, you know, right there between quarter four and quarter one.
You got to keep in mind that, like, as they're scaling, so just one quick point on Roy's point, as they're scaling upwards, they have more mobility to ramp up S&M spend in Q3 and Q4 because they're getting further and further and further away from that break-even line. They don't have to be as like tight, you know, fisted with regards to their spend. Sorry, go ahead, Roy.
But yeah, I think it comes down to guidance. What you said, TJ, is if they do what they've done in the past, where it's very ambiguous as far as their tech platform. Derek White's not there, and he may not be there. That's fine, but they don't communicate clearly on that, and guidance is raised, but not by very much. I don't see the market being very excited by the earnings, but they could come out and be. We can see what's expected from the company through the year, and there has to be acceleration at some point for them to hit that. So I think we start seeing that in Q3. I think they guide accordingly.
I agree. I mean, I'm excited about it, guys. I mean, I'm positioned for the first time. I don't have all the shares like covered, so they're like free to run. I've got the leaps that are unencumbered. Like I mean, I wake up every day and I'm like, this today, because what's the short float? I mean, like 17%. I don't play for those things, but I'm positioned for it.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't control the market. I don't control the pricing, but I sure control my position in the market.
Yeah.
And
BlackRock does.
Myself to run.
BlackRock and their 40 million shares does control the market. And the bulls are going to slaughter these shorts. They're going to flip it. I mean, I just feel like Noto's going to pull out some crazy ER one of these times nobody's expecting, and the stock will just do something nuts, and he's just going to laugh. Like, I feel like they can play a lot of games. I think it's going to be when we least we're like, it's going to be a down, we're all going to be down on it. And then he's going to just smack us across the face with a cold salami.
Jerome, pal. I control the market. You want to pull them?
He's right. He's right. He does. The guy can fart and the market goes down 10%.
The Donald's tweets do a pretty good job of that as well.
That's true.
I think that is another thing. I'm sure maybe y'all already talked about it before I came on, but I think potentially Biden stepping down and a clear path for a Donald victory is also a catalyst for the SoFi stock as well. And keep in mind, guys, when it's early in the game, the story moves the needle more than the numbers. That's the reality in a story like that. And Anthony Noto recently saying that just this day, I'm going to put my Republican hat on, just kind of like when he cheers for Army against Navy as a former West Point guy. That's that's just the reality, right? Nothing moves the needle like the news.
Yeah. It's a lot of the action happens before the ER. I mean, a lot of the positioning is, but they know what they're going to do regardless of the ER. I mean, it's had great ERs. It sells off. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do. Like, we don't have the money to, drive the bus. We're just passengers. We just decide when we get off and on. That's all we can do. We're turds. At least I am.
Your buddy's here.
Oh, David, the Chia Pet, my good man. He's still at $3. He actually on the 15th he revised his EPS target from 1 cent to 0 cents.
Oh my God!
So what a big man you are. Let me buy you a pack of gum and teach you how to chew it. Like, I don't know. It's ridiculous. He hates SoFi for what? Like his target price is like 75% of book value at this point. For a company growing, I mean, they're saying 18%, but realistically, once interest rates get cut, this company's going to see like 35-40% growth again, conservatively. Mm-hmm. The loans are going to explode right when Galileo is exploding, 2025. They timed this thing. They know what they're doing. TJ knows. Like,
guys, if I ask you a question, you can just answer with one sentence answer. Why are you so bullish on SoFi? Right now, like right here, right now, why are you so bullish on SoFi?
I think valuation and their core team, their C-suite. So Anthony Noto, Chris Lapointe, Derek White, incredible leadership. And I may not love that they've scaled back lending the way that they did, but this is a company that's going to be around in the future. You don't have to worry about like, oh, if I invest in SoFi, are they just going to cease to exist or go bankrupt or something like that? That's not happening. They're building this for the long term and a long-term vision. It's hitting a core demographic that has a lot of growth, and that's specifically going after millennials and zennials as well as they go into their wealth curve. Their flywheel effect is working well. Their tech platform. I spent some time. You wanted a short answer, didn't you?
I thought a one sentence answer.
Go,
That's
Roy.
a long sentence.
Pump
Hey,
this curve.
he's a preacher, man. Let him preach, man. Let him.
And it's going to the freaking moon at some point. Like honestly, that I spent a good amount of time. This was 2 months ago, looking more into the Galileo platform and into Derek White as well, and comparing that to some other services that are similar, because there is competition in the space. And you're right, TJ. It's some of it like you have to dig in, and this is not my zone of comfort as far as my full understanding of. I'm not a fintech expert, but it was something that I looked at and I'm like, I think that they really are best in class, and that I don't think that's me putting on investor goggles and staring at that. It just, valuation is very attractive too. That's the last piece I'll say. So,
Tevis, what about you, my man?
Yeah, I think for me, it's simply the fact that with this stock in particular, it's just the fact that I think that I have alpha. Like I see something that I think the market is missing right now, and there's opportunity to outperform. We'll see if that ends up being true or not. But right now, what I'm seeing is a really healthy, fast-growing, sustainable company with a really beaten down stock price and low morale. And there's opportunity there.
Agreed. What about you? Hello and welcome and welcome and hello.
I live for
Most
Roy's
bullish person on Sofi that I've ever seen, next to Kyle White and his $25 price target a week.
Oh no, I'm more bullish than him. For me, Roy's theatrical headshot and that eye contact he's giving me is really everything. If I could harness like the appeal, I don't know, but yeah, no. Why am I bullish on Sofi? I was in IPOE. I just was bored I got in a lot of these SPACs, just minor amounts of money. Yeah. And then I was like, yeah, most of these are crap. Like I got killed on like PaySafe. I sold Hylian at like $40. I was like, are you crazy? This is worth $2 billion. They have a tilt-up warehouse in Texas. and I started looking at these things and I was like, you know what? Sofi, Nodo came into that company in 2018. They were doing 300 million. Now they're about to do almost 2.5 billion 6 years later. Galileo is the real deal. I would say if anybody has a doubt, read the resumes, just the resumes. You don't have to watch the 51 minutes. Read who these guys have worked for. Our product guys built stuff at Google. They built stuff at all these big, FANG stocks or FANG Plus NVIDIA or whatever. They're all subservient to NVIDIA at this point. That Jensen guy with the leather jacket, the fancy shoes. But Sofi is just undervalued. They're giving zero value to the growth, zero value to the tech side. And I've said over and over, the tech side could be more valuable than Sofi, the bank. But right. The bank charter is important because it complements the tech company so well. Credit card processing is huge. Debit card churn is huge. When you're able to take those payments and drop them into a business checking account, and then that business owner is able to drop that into their Sofi Invest account, and then they're able to get a line of credit and fund their business. It's just a whole nother profit opportunity. Yes, selling B2B, selling software, you're going to have huge margins. You're going to get huge multiples. And I believe the team at Galileo is going to get it done. That's really the crux of this investment. Do you believe that Anthony Noto hired the right guy? And Derek White is from Utah. He did his undergrad at Utah. And he wants to raise his family in Utah. A guy of his stature would never go to a company that size in Provo. We got lucky. This guy, we get to make money from this guy's vision. I mean, he's brilliant. I watched that video and I was like, my God, his vision above the glass, below the glass. I don't know from my ass, but it's I was amazed. I was like, because I saw him, I was like, okay, Google, amazing resume. But once you actually hear a guy, talk for an hour and you really see who he is, it's like you don't get Noto in 6 minutes. When he did like an hour and a half with Kathy Wood, unscripted, that's when I was like, this is the guy. This is the guy I wish we could get on TV. This is the guy that can sell. Like what you're talking about, selling the ER, he's not going to sell nothing. He's going to sell us out. He's going to be like, well, we have adjusted EBITDA coming out of our asshole, but I'm still going to give tepid guidance. It's tepid. It's like an old man trying to send back soup at a deli. It's just tepid. It's not Gilbert. Remember Gilbert Gottfried? Rather than like it's not so much warm. It's tepid. It's tepid. I can't do a Gilbert bit. He used to do this bit where he was trying to send back soup. It was, oh my God, funny guy. I think he got in trouble with some weird stuff. But I'm not endorsing his politics. But anyway, sorry guys.
I hear you. Well, the reason that I am super bullish on SoFi is because for the last couple of years, they were forced to get better because of all of these headwinds, like, student loans and everything else. And it was really a blessing in disguise because now they're like legit ready to run. All the stars are aligning and they're just a much better business today. The story's great. The numbers are great. And I think that it's just everything is aligned and they're ready to run. And they're not only going to get a high multiple, but they're going to warrant the high multiple. It's not just going to be because of the story. I think the numbers are going to fall in line as well. And super, super exciting. I have one reservation and we can kind of put it for another day, if you will, because I got to get going and I'm sure you guys do too. The only thing that worries me about my investment in SoFi, and it's the second largest investment that we have going on across the board, myself and the clients, is I worry about somebody scooping them up and them not being able to execute the entire vision. Because there's a lot of deep pocketed money out there, companies that are like, dude, this would really complement what we got going on. And we don't have to do all this shit because they already did it. And then I'm like, well, there goes my my $10 million opportunity in my head, so to speak.
But that's what you get for not buying shares. You got leverage. I got a lot of leaps too. That's the trade-off.
No,
you get hurt.
Shares.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. No, I mean, but that's. So if they get the right number, you're going to be good. I mean, Noto's not going to sell cheap. He's getting offers. I mean, with this business is very nice for a lot of different people. He wants like 25 at least. I think he wants something. I think he wants a big number nobody's going to pay. Even with the dismal failure of Marcus and the massive cash flow Goldman has, they just don't have the intestinal fortitude to come back to Noto with their tail between their legs and buy SoFi from him.
Can somebody say that SoFi does not, or I'm sorry, SoFi's not a bank. SoFi has a bank. They officially have a bank. And who is this Danny DEALZ guy that's just been pontificated for what? There we go. I think that's it. I'm out. I'm supposed to be lurking. I'm not supposed to be on this with this all-star cast.
No.
Love
Face for radio. Face for radio.
The guy just comes on just to say the one sentence he wanted one of us to say. He's like, "Can somebody say?" And then he just like says it. And then
a lot of ideas. That's what I say. Like all my viewers, I'm like, I'm probably dumber than 90% of you. Like, come on, just say whatever you want to say. Like, you think you know everything? I'm like, no, I don't, but I know enough to buy this stock. I'm gonna get rich on this one. I mean, again,
I think that is the perfect place for us to close the episode, guys. We have earnings in a couple weeks. We should do this again after earnings. Get the crew back together. Maybe get Tanner. Get Chris Hager. We can get Kyle. We can just get a whole bunch of SoFi people. And then we can have a bigger conversation.
You should do one of those deals like the dude from Tesla that has like 10 people covering the earnings or whatever. Was it Farzad? Is that his name?
Yep.
The Tesla
or that fat guy who does push-ups.
I don't know who that is.
Big Tesla guy does a lot of napkin math and push-ups. Oh, I love Tesla people. He thinks the company's going to be worth $30 trillion in the next couple of years. So
Oof. I hope he is right, but he's probably wrong. All right.
Me too.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure. Have a great